what is a twin flame awakening? A lot of people talk about Kundalini awakenings and waiting for their twin flame to awaken and the spiritual awakening that was caused by meeting their twin flame. But what does it all mean? So let's talk about all the caveats and all of the ways that you can awaken on this journey. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey first. I actually had a major spiritual awakening about a year before meeting my twin flame. So I thought that was the big one. And actually, I had been fairly spiritual all my life, but I just never paid attention to it. There was always this little voice in the back of my mind saying, oh, there's more to reality than meets the eye. There's more to the universe than this mundane existence. But I was pursuing ego level things like academic degrees in philosophy and careers that really weren't for me, but they all helped me along the way in what I do now. So none of it was for nothing. It was all on purpose. However, I was living in the 3D mundane world, unable to see the deeper meaning of life. And I learned a lot about that on the twin flame journey. But before meeting him, I already thought I had the big spiritual awakening. I realized my deep connection with all living things. And I could see that there was no borderline, no barrier between me and the rest of existence. I started to become interested in the chakra system, in Ayurveda. I was already very interested in yoga, but yoga is one of those things that you can do as like a kind of quasi-spiritual person to say that you're spiritual, but it's actually in the Western world just exercise, right? Usually. But I was always interested in yoga and meditation. I was teetering on the edge, but in 2020, I had the big spiritual awakening and realized there's a great purpose to everything in existence. And the universe started me on a path to exit my corporate job, which I'll never go back to an office job, I hope. But it was terrifying as that was all changing. I was going through a divorce. I was figuring out how to be a single mom, and I suddenly was faced with unemployment. My last job was a software engineer at a startup, and I was having a hard time letting go of that piece of my life. But all of these attachments had to fall away for my new existence, and all of that was set in motion even before meeting my twin flame. So when I met him, I was in a place where I felt like I had hit rock bottom. Of course, I had no idea what that really meant till later, but I felt like I had lost everything. I was reinventing myself. So when I met him, then I had another spiritual awakening, and that one was crazy. I thought I'd already gone through the big one, but this was even bigger. It was like something was just in my mind all the time telling me, you have to do something. There's something important going on. It's urgent. This is who you really are. Here's a mirror of your soul. Here's a person who was always meant to meet you, and there's some great purpose in this, and it's going to be revealed soon. And maybe you're supposed to end up with him, and you're supposed to figure out how to be with him. And it was just driving me nuts, but it was like this deep discomfort with my identity that I had to sit with every day, and this obsession, this mental addiction, thinking about him and the situation all the time. It was just exhausting. I'm sure a lot of you watching can relate, because a lot of my clients tell me the exact same thing happened to them. And that led to, my next big awakening. I realized this is supposed to completely change my life, this twin flame thing. And then he did come back into my life. I got to be with him for a short time, whatever that means. What does physical union mean? I have another video about that topic you can watch later. But I did get to live with him for a short time, and it was absolutely wonderful. And after he died, then I had the real big awakening. And I thought I'd already had two big awakenings, but that was the real one, because then I realized not only am I connected to all things in existence, and the borderline between me and the rest of all things is very thin or non-existent, at that point I realized I could speak to people on the other side. I had a direct line, not just to the divine realm, but to souls that are crossing over, and my spirit guides, all spirits on the other side of the veil. I had access to, I could talk to. I always had, and I just didn't pay attention. And that was a really big awakening. That has led to where I am now, because I realize I have skills and abilities and a purpose that I had been ignoring all my life, or just had no opportunity to realize until that moment. And I went through a lot of grief. I went through a dark night of the soul. I went through a lot of horrible things that I wouldn't wish on anyone, but it all was for a purpose. There's no accidents in the universe. And one of the biggest awakenings and realizations I've ever had on this journey, there may be more coming, but until now, is that you have to accept some very undesirable things are true in this physical reality, things that seem disappointing to the ego. But when you accept them, the soul steps up, and you realize none of these physical attachments really fulfill you or matter. What matters is that you find peace and bliss, and you emit love and compassion to all people around you. So on the twin flame journey, there are many awakenings, and I think there's been some since then too. They keep coming. It's waves. The universe knows you can't handle it all at one time, but also you need certain situations to awaken you step by step, right? So other people have come to me and told me about their twin flame experiences. They're different from mine. A lot of people like to use this buzzword, Kundalini awakening, which I don't think people really know what that means sometimes when they use that term. But just like the term twin flame, Kundalini awakening is a label for something that happens to people. It's something that helps you Google it and to unite a bunch of similar experiences so you can compare and read about them, right? So Kundalini awakening is supposed to be when the Shakti, the coiled snake in your spine, wakes up and shoots upwards and awakens every one of your chakras along the way. It awakens your whole body and soul. It's like everything comes together, everything makes sense, but it can also be painful physically and mentally and spiritually. And that certainly is something that happens on the twin flame journey. I just don't know if I've ever explained what happened to me in that term, and that's okay. Lots of people also talk about waiting for their twin flame to awaken. Well, based on everything I just said, we know there are many awakenings, right? So maybe you should focus on your next awakening, or what you're supposed to be realizing, because none of us is fully awakened unless you've reached enlightenment, which is possible, and you should try to. But focusing on someone else's awakening is not going to help you. Focus on yourself. You can't make someone else awaken. You just can't. The universe has that job. Your guides have the job of designing situations that help you learn lessons you're supposed to learn. So I hope this video helped. My ramblings about my experiences in twin flames. If you would like to work with me or talk about your twin flame awakening, I'd love to hear about it. I never get tired of hearing these twin flame stories. So you can find the link to book a session with me in my bio. My website is wellnessoneness.com. Thank you.